And we're live. Welcome everybody to Team Tank, episode 4. Thanks for everybody first and foremost for the support. I've been blown away by how quickly the Team Tank is kind of building. I'm getting a little jealous. my follower count at 400 is on the verge of falling behind. So, but no, I mean it's been great. You guys are sending questions. The interaction is great, and I really appreciate that. I'm here, as you can see, in a different room of the apartment. My wife has banished me to my man cave. It looks like, Ryan, you're in a different room?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so the struggle is real, guys.
We gotta change it up.
All right, so joining us today, we have from my left to right, my left shark over here is Harrison Fagan. He writes for Silver Screen and Roll. He was with us the very first one. He's missed a couple of them. You know, he's coming back from the IR. How you doing, Harrison?
You know, I got to come back and get my trade value up before the deadline. So
I heard your mom wasn't a big fan. You tweeted that out that your mom said you were the worst one on here.
oh yeah, but you know she doesn't like me anyway. So
And that's with Matt not looking into the camera the whole first podcast.
I really didn't know this was live. I thought we were just, like talking to
And yeah, so that's a good segue to Matt. He's joining us again. This is his second show here. He is the proud owner of Team Tank's MVP, far and away. Teddy guaranteed us a loss against the Knicks, and boy, did he come through. Joe freaking Namath. That was awesome.
I think he's 2-0 on guarantees, so.
I mean, I'd like to say guarantee every game, but you know the magic is a strong thing, and it might come true, and then everybody's going to be all depressed about the Lakers going 0-40 in the back half of the season.
Yeah, exactly right.
And Rahul, the rookie, is here, still dollless.
Yeah.
How you doing, Rahul?
Doing good. It's good to be back.
And then finally, Ryan Kellapire is on here. He has been with us the last 2 shows, and this is his 3rd show. How are you holding up?
I'm doing right now, so I was one of the last people to show up. I'm taking advantage of that.
Sounds good. So I guess we'll start off. The big news of the day is Jordan Hill being hurt for 2 weeks. That is a bummer for the. I mean, it's a great thing for the actual tanking. It is not so good for his trade value. We've been begging since January 15th. Please, Mitch Kupchak, trade Jordan Hill. Please get him on the market. Get him out of LA. Get a first rounder for him. He is still on the roster, and now he is on the IR. Well, Harrison, what kind of knock do you think that does to his trade value?
I mean, I saw someone on Twitter earlier today make a good point that you know it didn't stop the Cavs from taking a chance on Amon Shumpert. He was out and he was still able to get traded. But I think with big men, it's a little bit of a different proposition because they tend to like have more nagging injuries and just I think because of the giant frame. So I think this really does hurt it with only like what 2 weeks left until the deadline. I think that really does hurt his value a lot. I mean, teams know what he can do at this point, so it's not like he hasn't demonstrated what his skill set is. You know, he's a good offensive rebounder, decent pick and roll player. He moves well for a big guy. But I mean, I think this definitely hurts. Like that could be the difference between getting like a first and a second for him, or getting anything for him.
Yeah, Ryan, you had mentioned, I think, previously on Twitter that you were the one, I think, who made the Shumpert point, but you also, Hill had previously hurt that hip, right?
I know he tore. I think it was like a labrum in his hip. It was, I think, last year or the year before that. I'm not sure if it's the same hip or not, but I mean, before this year, he was always known to be kind of injury prone. So anyone that trades for him kind of has to be aware of that. But also, this is the first year he's played like major minutes. So the fact that he's been able to stay healthy this long, it's actually kind of surprising, to be honest.
And that, I mean, Matt, maybe you can back me up on this one, but the way he's played, you know, floating around the perimeter a little bit more, it's frustrating as heck for us watching that set shot go up every night. But it also kind of kept him healthy, for this long. Do you think that impacted his health?
Yeah, I think that what helped him be able to play the amount of minutes he has is he doesn't have to work as much for his shots. I don't know if I don't really like how he's taking so many mid-range shots, but I mean, he was like really good at it in the beginning of the year, and now he's like kind of back to average. But I don't know if he's gonna continue that game like the way he's playing if he was like on a contending team.
Can I just say it's great for the tank?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's somebody made that point to me on Twitter today. That yeah, I mean it's great. He's probably our most productive player night in night out. So in that sense, these next 2 weeks, especially with a big game Friday coming up against Orlando, that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean I don't know. I'd see it as a missed opportunity. Not on the same level as losing Dwight and Powell for nothing, but to not be able to get a first out of everybody somebody that everybody knew all season the Lakers were going to get ready to trade. I mean, this isn't like it's some new development.
Well, his whole contract, I remember when he signed it, everyone was saying how it's so trade friendly, bring it back for the second year. So you had to, I mean, if that's the case, which I honestly think it was, then it's not like these last 3 weeks should be the first time they're discussing trades. I mean, at this point, they should already have offers, or they know who's interested and who's not. So I don't think it's like this injury. Everyone's just gonna all the trade discussions are all gonna be gone, or people won't want to, or there's no interest in him. There has to be some interest in him out there.
Right.
Yeah, and speaking of his contract, I saw an article in the LA Times today, and it said that if the Lakers do keep him, they're leaning heavily towards picking up his option next season, which is really concerning to me. I hope that's not the case.
That would be. Oh man, I love Mitch. He's done great. Obviously those 2 titles he brought over Powell and all that stuff, and he's drafted really well. That's something to his credit, with everything. But man, I'm getting really close to that point where Mitch needs to fall under some serious scrutiny.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about the other day. I was saying how sometimes trades don't happen because teams overvalue their players, and I think that was the case last year with Powell. And he was like a Laker legend. They didn't want to give him away for like a second-round pick. But I honestly feel like that's a case with Hill and Kupchak, because you signed to that contract. It seems it's pretty trade-friendly, and then that report comes out where if they keep him, that they'll want to bring him back for another season. Where I would have thought that if you don't trade him, then you just decline his option, let him walk as a free agent. But for $9 million, I wouldn't want him back for that much. That's way too high.
Especially when the Lakers, it seems, are going to be more active in free agency this year than they were last year.
They say that, but I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, giving him $9 million next year will completely ruin our plans to bring in some good free agents next year to try to win next year. So yeah, that would be the worst possible situation. For sure.
I mean, I just see this going down a road, and yeah, we're kind of talking doomsday right now, but the Lakers somehow losing their top 5 pick and then picking up Jordan Hill again next year would just, oh man, jeez.
It'd be the worst year in Lakers history if we don't keep this pick. I really believe that.
Easily.
That's not true. Or actually, never mind. Yeah, we'd get it because we'd have it back next year if we conveyed it this year.
Right, yeah. Right. I mean, but even then, I mean, you would think Julius Randle coming back next year. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Lakers wouldn't get better, but you would think that they would improve to where they'd be giving up the top 5 pick this year, and then they would keep a maybe a top 10 or 15 pick next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
So one of the most popular question, I guess, the question we put out there to Twitter that got a lot of people talking were listing our top 5 prospects that the Lakers should look at going into this upcoming draft. we all kind of sat and talked amongst ourselves. The consensus top 5 in some order, we'll be able to talk about the order, was Okafor, Towns, Moutier, Johnson, and D'Angelo Russell. The order for me, I would say I would probably put Johnson there at the 3 spot instead of Moutier, and drop Moutier down to the 5th spot just because we haven't seen him very much. But what do you guys think, Rahul? Which order would you put those guys in?
Yeah, I agree. I'd go Okafor, Towns, Johnson, Russell, and then Moutier at 5th.
Right, Ryan, do you disagree with that? Does anybody disagree with the order at all?
For me, the only 2 that I have like set in stone would be Okafor and Towns, only just because they're both centers, and I think Okafor is probably the best player in the whole draft, but Towns, from a fit standpoint with Randall, I think, and he's a really good player too. I think I just have him at 2 for that reason, and then Russell, Johnson, Moutier. I mean, Moutier, I haven't watched him play. I don't think many people have, so we're kind of just going based off like scouting videos or other draft boards and stuff. So it's kind of hard for me to rank him, and then Russell and Johnson, I'm biased, so I'd put Stanley Johnson ahead of Russell, but even then, I'll wait till the end of the year before I make a final decision on that.
I would actually, I mean, we talked about this last show, or maybe the one before that, but I actually like Johnson more than Towns. Okafor is a consensus number 1. There's no way that he doesn't go number 1 overall. But I really like Johnson's game, and I think the small forward position is more valuable. I think in this current format, or type of basketball that the NBA is playing nowadays. I think he's more valuable. That position's more valuable than it's ever been. Matt, where would you put everybody in that order?
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. I got Stanley at 3 right now. Moutier, same with me. I mean, I haven't watched him play, so it's like hard to judge. I'm just going based off scouting. But I want to see, like, between Stanley and Russell, I think that's the 2 that I'm like, I'm not for sure. I don't know which one I would rather have yet. But when we go into, like, we got they both have big games coming up, conference games, conference tournaments, the tournament. So for those 2, I'm waiting to see how they play in like bigger games too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just saying, like, in terms of the comparison, I mean, obviously it's still early, but between Johnson and Russell, one thing we know for sure is Stanley Johnson's definitely a much better defender. He's also probably a little more consistent outside shooter. So, like, right now, so maybe Russell can improve, but
Well, as far as you mentioned Stanley Johnson as a consistent outside shooter. Obviously I go to Arizona. I watch every game. I'm still skeptical about that. He's shooting, I think, high 30s right now. I think around 39%. But a lot of his like 3-point attempts, the defense basically wants him to shoot because they don't want him to drive and just destroy the defense in the paint. So they'll leave him open, and a lot of times he just has open spot ups or off the dribble threes, and he's hit a good amount of them. But over the past few, like I think 2 or 3 games, he's starting to struggle a bit from outside, and that's kind of what Aaron Gordon did last year too. He started off like really hot at the beginning of the year, and then as Pac-12 play went on, he like slowly regressed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just saying, like, in comparison to Russell. I mean, I guess we can both say, like, it's hard to tell whether they're both consistent shooters at this point, right? So, I guess we'll see.
I mean, well, Russell's shooting like 45%, so I would take him.
Right. I watched Russell shoot, and I watched Stanley Johnson shoot. I think Russell has a much more pure-looking shot. I mean, I'm biased. Lefty shots just look cooler, period. But yeah, compared to Stanley Johnson's shooting form, I don't know.
Stanley's shot is just really flat.
Yeah, he shoots kind of flat-footed, and
He has
I'd like
no
to see
arc on the
him.
ball.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll kind of segue into a couple of the questions we've received via Twitter. Again, thanks again for sending those in. Keep them coming. I guess we're going to start first with, if I can run my computer. We have, we already answered that. VG Fowl asked if Jordan Hill doesn't get traded by deadline, should the front office exercise team option and renounce his rights? I think we'd all agree there, on this one that just let him walk, just let him go.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think at this point it's time for the marriage to end. I think he's going to be better off with a fresh start. I think the Lakers need to look at someone new. They know what Jordan Hill gives them. That's not what they need right now. They aren't at a place where they can have him as their best off the bench big, their third big man, and be competitive with that. So I think it's time. It's done.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Matt? If they brought Jordan Hill back, would you be okay with it, or would you want them to let him go?
No, I really wouldn't be okay with it. I just don't think it's worth it, and I don't want him on this team next year. I don't really dislike Jordan Hill. I just don't think he's worth, the contract that he would be getting.
I actually like his skill set, but like more for a contender or as like a third big off the bench. But just as your starting big, and then especially in this system where they're just like letting him take all these long jumpers that like he's gotten okay at, to his credit, but he's like not great at. I think that he just needs to be in a system that takes more advantage of his skill set.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I mean, it can feel kind of cold. I mean, Simmons wrote that big long article last year about, oh, poor Steve Nash. He's now Steve Nash's expiring contract. Boo-hoo. But it is kind of, you do feel kind of cold just saying, yeah, let Jordan Hill walk away. He seems like a really nice guy. I mean, I love everything. I don't know if you guys are aware of all the things he does for, cancer awareness. I guess his mom lost a battle with cancer. He's a really, really nice guy. I think he's worked his butt off to develop the game he has now. Remember, he was heading towards, bust status before he came to the Lakers. He kind of turned his career around. Rahul, if I guess we'll take it a step further. If Jordan Hill, is renounced and he just, walks away, is there anything in particular you'd like to see done with his contract, or with that cap space from his contract?
Yeah. So I think, well, obviously, I guess we can agree that the top priority in terms of free agency would be to go after a point guard, whether that would be Reggie Jackson or Dragic. So yeah, that would be the top priority for me in terms of free agency.
Yeah. Any thoughts to add there, Ryan?
Honestly, it depends who we draft. If you get Towns or Okafor, then you go for a guard or a small forward. I like Dragic. For if you're planning to win like right now, like not right now, but in the next like 2 to 3 years, I'd prefer Dragic. If not him, then you're gonna like rebuild over like 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 years. I'd prefer Reggie Jackson, or I like Brandon Knight out of all of them the best. But I like I said in the previous podcast, I just don't think there's any way that Milwaukee doesn't match any offer for him.
And when you say better than all of them, you're not taking into account KJ McDaniels, right?
Well, I said point guard, so no. But
okay, good.
I mean, if we want to get if we want to go deeper, I'd rather have Steve Novak than all those players. But I'll leave that for another day.
So I have a question for you guys. So let's say by chance we end up drafting Moutier. So he'd probably be starting then. So who would you want to go after in free agency if you drafted Moutier?
KJ.
I would go after there's a lot of centers in this free agency class. DeAndre Jordan, Marc Gasol, Hibbert could be a free agent. He has a player option. Al Jefferson, Monroe, if you see him as a center. I'd go after one of those guys, preferably one of the defensive-minded ones, just because it's a better fit alongside Randall. And then once you have your point guard, Kobe at the 2, you have to get someone at the 3. and then you'd have Randall, and then whatever center. I think that's like a pretty. Obviously, it's not going to be a title contending team, but I think it could be at least like intriguing to watch.
Yeah,
I
it'd
would
be.
say, go ahead.
Yeah,
I would say Jordan would be my top priority. I mean, if I'm being serious. What do you think, Gary? If all variables were off the table and you could sign Marc Gasol or DeAndre Jordan for the same amount, and I actually think they're going to be roughly the same amount. Jordan, I believe, is a couple of years younger. Who would you rather go with?
I would rather go with.
Me?
I'd rather go with Marc Gasol over DeAndre Jordan. But I mean, I just looked at this free agency class, and I don't think we're gonna get any of the like top guys available because they're either restricted or I think they're gonna come back. So I personally don't have that high of expectations for the free agency class this year. But I mean, next year and the year after are the ones that I'm more focused on.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of the free agency, there are some like smaller names like Gerald Green. He's become really good this year, so he might be a nice guy to try to get at 3 possibly.
I mean, we had Gerald Green on our summer league team. I think like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Who did we picked like
Jason Capono.
Who did we pick over him? It was like
Jason Capono. They kept Jason Capono over him.
Yeah,
and then, recently there was a highlight of somebody torching Jason Capono.
Oh yeah, that was Lin. I think that was like the Lin highlights that all those Lin fans sent every time you criticize him. They're like, oh, here, check this video out when he had one good game. It's like, all right,
guys, he was great for a whole month. But actually, while we're on the Lin subject, I was on the trade machine today for way longer than I care to admit, trying to find anywhere to send Jeremy Lin. He is freaking hard to trade. That contract is not doing any favors, and most of the guys who have that similar type of contract kind of sort of deserve them. They aren't really going to be looked to be moved anyway. The first team I came to mind were the Dallas Mavericks. Now that Rajon Rondo dented his exoskeleton, and Devin Harris. I don't know if you guys saw Devin Harris's injury. That looked bad. That didn't look good at all.
He got hurt now too?
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Harris, yeah, he Pekovic, that polar bear fell on rolled up Devin Harris's knee. Basically, it was those plays that happen in football on the O line sometimes. Where guys were falling and he rolled up his knee. It looked really bad. So yeah, if both those guys miss significant time, Lin could fill a need there. It's just his contract is really hard to move.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like the Pistons. We mentioned him. I know on Twitter as like a trade possibility for Lin, and then I think yesterday they signed John Lucas III or whatever. It's just I don't think teams view Lin as he makes $15 million a year. His cap hit's only $8 million, but he makes $15 million a year. They have to pick up the rest of that, and is he really that much better than one of those veteran guys you can pick up from free agency? I don't think most most teams think that.
Conspiracy. That's a Lin-spiracy if I've ever heard one. The whole league is trying to keep him out.
No, they've all band together to ruin his career. Okay, we just were media mouthpieces and we can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys need to listen to these people on Twitter with like 10 followers that
It's not because he's an average player, just because they just don't like him because of his race.
Yeah,
and he's too religious. He's like Tim Tebow. He's way too religious too. Don't forget that part.
Yeah, they're persecuting him for being Christian.
Yeah, that's it right there. So all right, so I guess we'll go to the next question. This question comes in from Scott Asai. It's a good question. Which player is leading the charge? Sacre Johnson, who is the tank commander? That could, really change from day to day. Anybody have any first-hand nominees?
Wesley Johnson.
Yeah.
Wesley Johnson was actually my pick for the Tank Watch column this week that I do for Silver Screen and Roll.
So terrible.
He has been, oh man, just
Oh,
awful.
man.
He had to play. He had to play last or against the Knicks on Sunday, where they had the ball. It was like maybe 4 seconds, maybe 4 seconds left on the shot clock, and he decided then was a great time to get a hand check bumping foul called on him, and that just totally summed up his career. And then then the next play he missed a jumper, so that helped too.
I'm a Syracuse fan. I had to watch Wesley Johnson, and I just never thought he was going to be a good NBA player. What did he go, like 4th in the draft? And
Yeah.
From the draft, like from that time on, I'm like, whoever took him, it's going to be a mistake. And of course, he ends up on the Lakers.
Well, that was a David Kahn pick, right?
Yeah, that was a David Kahn pick.
He was okay in college. He was a good college player, but like he's not a top 5 pick. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that Big East has ended a lot of careers in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go for my nominee for Tank Commander. It's the one and only arms crossed left shark, Mr. Byron Scott. I wrote an article today for Rant Sports, basically comparing him, flailing his arms around, trying to find some semblance of catching up to where the NBA is nowadays, a la that shark just wiggling, trying to find the choreography that the rest of the show was going on. I'm not gonna lie, I had way too much fun writing the article. It was a beautiful day out. I was out on my balcony, laughing my ass off. The rest of my neighbors were probably not very happy with me because I'm the loser laughing at his own jokes. But yeah, he's just I don't understand what he's doing. Ryan, you made the note, I believe it was during the Knicks game, where it was like if they want to win this game, which we're not sure they want to, whether if they wanted to win, they could play. Who was it?
It was Ed Davis, Boozer, and then Lin alongside Clarkson, because Ellington was awful. Ryan Kelly at the 3 is just such a waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Sacre's he's the worst player on the team, and the fact he's starting. That's why when everyone's like, oh, the Lakers aren't tanking, they're just bad. At this point, they're not trying to win games.
No. I mean, when you brought up Ryan Kelly, I don't know. Did you guys watch the D-League game that they played the other day?
No.
Yes.
Wait, you're talking about the Lakers game or the actual D-League team?
Both. I think. They had Ryan Kelly there, so he was representing the Tank varsity team. Harrison, what were your thoughts on his performance in that game?
Well, he just he was used the right way, and he was at power forward. He was taking bigger players off the dribble. He was they couldn't handle him in transition. He was drawing fouls all over the place. He was doing everything. At one point, at the end of the third quarter, I actually made a vine of it and posted it. They even had him mopping the floor under the basket. He was just he looked good, and you could see why so many of us think that he's has a chance to be a player. And the Lakers have he was shooting threes. I don't think he shot a great percentage on threes, but his shot looks good.
He hasn't gotten much practice in games, right, shooting those threes. So I guess I can't quite blame him.
Yeah. No, I think he had 35 points. I mean, it's in the D League, but to go from average, I don't know what he's averaging with the Lakers, but it can't be too much. Since he got moved into the starting lineup, it can't be more than it's probably less than 10. In the D League, he just looked like a totally different player. He looked confident. He was, he just had these guys they looked helpless against him.
Yeah,
again, they're D-League players, but they aren't much worse than the Knicks. But then look at how he played in that Knicks game.
I just don't get why he's playing at the 3, because I remember him at Duke and he was playing the 4 alongside one of the Plumlee brothers. So he wasn't even playing the 3 in college. Really, Duke went 3 guards and 2 forwards, and Ryan Kelly was one of them.
I think
I just don't get it. I don't know why.
I think it's just because he can shoot that they're trying to like shoehorn him in. Like Byron's mind cannot like wrap around the idea of like a power forward shooting a three. Like he sees Ryan shoot a three in practice and he's like, oh, like small forward. Okay, I get it.
But what I was saying is, if you're gonna make him play a position other than 4, I'd try him at the 5. I mean, he's 7 foot tall. I mean, he's not gonna block shots, but he makes like the right rotations. He's a good team defender. And also, I mean, in the future, if you ever want to go to like the Atlanta Hawks, like 5 out, no in offense, where you have where they have like Pero Antic shooting threes while playing center. Kelly could be a fit for something like that. He's never going to work as a 3. He can't guard threes. He can't score on threes. Unless you want just like a glorified spot-up shooter, and he hasn't even been good on spot-up threes this year. So I just hope they try him. If they're going to, like I said, if they're going to try him in another position, try him at the 5, not the 3.
Well, and he doesn't have, I mean, his release isn't very fast, right? So when he's being guarded by small forwards who are the best athletes, I would wager, in all of sports, play there at the 3. When he has those guys running out at him, that extra second or half a second even to get his shot off compared to when he's guarded by the 4s, it makes a huge difference.
Well, that, and they can close out hard on him because they know if he decides to, pump fake and then dribble in the lane, they can stay with him. It's not like a power forward where you pump fake, you can get by him. He'll be quick. He'll be quicker or just as quick as his defender.
And
whereas small forwards, they can recover against him.
And there's still likely to be 2 big men like back there if he's being guarded by a small forward. The paint's still clogged up. It's not like where he's pulling one of those bigs out if he's at the 4.
Yeah. Right. So in space, like for your offensive spacing, having him at the 4, it opens up the court. Having him at the 3, if anything, because he hasn't been shooting well this year, it basically clogs up the floor, as Harrison was saying.
Right. Yeah, it's Byron. That's all I can really say about it. It's Byron. He's a dinosaur.
Well, like if D'Antoni was our coach right now, like what would our lineup be?
I could totally see him going with like a Lin, Clarkson, Ellington,
Kelly, and then
Kelly, and anybody.
Any of the big. I think like Tarek Black.
Ed Davis.
Yeah, any of those guys, that'd be fine.
Basically, it'd be the opposite of the crappy basketball we're being shoveled down our throats right now.
I mean, exactly. At least it would be entertaining.
Yeah. And the Lin fans wouldn't be terrorizing everyone because he'd be putting up some decent numbers.
Yeah, he'd be getting more minutes.
He'd have some trade value.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
And now I'm bummed again.
We would probably have more wins too, though.
Well, that's the thing.
True.
Like,
People
thought that like hiring him was all about he won't win us any games, so it'll be good for the tank. And I honestly if that was the plan, it's genius.
Yeah.
No, I think getting back to we were talking about the tank commander. I think that we can all agree that like for the season, Byron is the tank commander.
Yeah.
But I think on a week-to-week basis, we can make arguments for who's been worse or whatever, or call somebody else that. I'm just surprised that Boozer didn't get any nominations so far. I really thought at the beginning of the preseason he was going to be worse, but he's been okay.
Yeah, he's actually been like some games he's actually been really good. Ever since he went to the bench, like he comes in, scores like 15 points. He's relatively efficient. His defense hasn't been as bad as it was when he was with Chicago. So I thought that was going to be a good oh, look, we have Carlos Boozer in the starting lineup, distraction for casual fans, but he's actually been decent.
Well, the thing with I hesitate to say he's been better than he was with Chicago on defense because it's all relative, right? I mean, if he's surrounded by Robert Sacre and Jeremy Lin out there, he's going to look great as compared to when he's the square peg in a round hole in a Coach Thibodeau defensive system. But
although it's funny because Powell basically took his spot as the 4 on that team, and ever since then, their defense this year it's not even that good. And last year they were an elite defensive team with Boozer as a starter, so maybe it wasn't all his fault.
Well, Rose hasn't been very
No,
good.
I think he just stood out. Yeah, Rose has been awful.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, yeah, we've known for the past 3-4 years, Powell's not that good of a defender anymore. Definitely.
You guys remember when we played the Jazz and we were kind of scared of Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer? In that
Yeah.
playoff series?
I used to think Darren Williams was the best point guard in the league like a few
Yeah, me
years ago.
too.
Well, remember it used to be. Oh, here's Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer, John Stockton and Karl
Yeah.
Malone.
I forgot they were actually
There were
legit
people saying
compliments.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a lot more fun when Powell and Lamar used to beat up Carlos Boozer rather than have him on our team now.
With his stubby little
Yeah.
arms, like just that's why. I mean, once every game, right? He has that push off, and he thinks he can get away with it because his arms are like a T-Rex, but he can't.
That's the one thing that we can complain about is he's teaching it to the young guys. I've seen them getting more the last couple games. Like he's taken them aside after practice and teaching them how to shove somebody in the back while they're jumping.
I imagine. All right. Just for a visual here, could you just imagine those practices?
Oh.
How bad those things are? I just think to myself. I mean, we were talking before we went on air, and I coached girls high school basketball there for a while, and I can't think that it's all that different. It's a lot of guys who are just, I mean, fighting for minutes and who aren't very good at basketball. That's not good.
I'm sure the rims at the practice facility take an absolute beating every single time they're on the floor.
Free throw practice with Ed Davis.
Oh my god.
Says the guy who wants to sign DeAndre Jordan.
Hey, I'm just saying that at 26, I think he's 26, going on 27, and that crazy athletic, just have him shoot right-handed like Andrew Bogut.
Or you could do the old granny style underhand free throws.
Remember?
I wish a player would bust that out. I really do.
I think I mean, if you're like a 40% free throw shooter, you
might
don't
as
have
well
much
try.
to
like,
lose.
why not?
He'd probably
kick the
shoot a
ball
higher
out.
percentage. He probably would shoot a higher percentage going granny than what he's doing right now.
That's what Rick Barry, Brent and John Barry's dad. You guys, he's definitely before my time, which means he's like before yours.
I knew that. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
which Barry it was, and I didn't want to look like an idiot, so
Yeah, Rick
I
Barry
played it
said
safe.
if Shaq shot like that, he'd shoot 75%, and Shaq laughed him out of the gym. But typical Shaq.
Can you imagine if Shaq had shot 75% from the free throw line?
I
How
mean,
many points would he have?
he'd be the all-time leading scorer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
He'd
then,
have to be up there. Yeah.
I mean, he'd have a case as being like the greatest player. I mean, if he had made.
He also wouldn't have gotten fouled, that many times if he was shooting that higher percent. Like, they
That's
wouldn't have
true.
hacked him in the games.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I guess my favorite question of the day came in from David Chia at ChiaPet74, who asks, "Is the Denver tire fire enough to catch the Lakers?" I'm paraphrasing. They have 19 wins on the season. As of right now, they were just losing to the Sixers, and I think Brian Shaw outwardly asked if his players are trying to lose.
Yeah.
They're
down 13 with 10 minutes to go.
They are too far, I would say, too far behind or ahead, depending on your stance. But I think there's too much separation there. What do you guys think?
Well, they have 6 more wins than us already, and honestly, if Hill's out or we trade him, I mean, we're not going to win. We might not even get to 20 wins. I mean, maybe I think we'll probably finish around 22, 23. But we might not even get to that, and they're already at 19. They have so much more talent than we do. I mean,
Yeah.
Ty Lawson's still like one of the top point guards in the league. Aflalo's good. Wilson Chandler's not bad. Jusuf Nurkic has been pretty good this year for a rookie at least. Fareed's been terrible, but and then off the bench they have they have Gallinari, and they just talent-wise they're way ahead of us. And even if Brian Shaw's not a good coach either, but I don't. There's no way they're gonna catch us. I mean, I don't want to say
Well, that
no way,
was.
because if they do, it'll be my fault. But
I mean,
It's all your fault.
yeah, like you mentioned earlier, like if you look at their schedule in February, I mean, they're not going against very difficult teams. I mean, Boston, Detroit, Oklahoma City, LA, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Phoenix, Utah. But then when they get to March, it gets really hard. Then they start playing San Antonio, Houston, Atlanta, Golden State. So I think in the end they won't catch us. They're, like you said, we're too far behind.
we still have 2 games against them. So, I mean, I think if we lose one of those, I think we'll be fine. If we win both, then maybe it could get a little interesting. But I don't see this team beating a lot of, even as bad as the Nuggets are playing. I don't see us beating them twice, maybe even not, and probably not even once.
We're starting Robert Sacre. I would say we're fine as far as not winning games.
Well, I mean, in those games against us, they may go to the Mark Madsen tanking strategy and just let JaVale McGee just launch from 3 or something like.
Oh man.
I was at the Nuggets Clippers game the other day, and like it was nice to like actually watch a team that like is NBA level. And yeah, the Nuggets are like so much better than us that I don't even think it's gonna end up being too close. They're like exactly where like you don't want your team to be. They're like in the 10. They're like in the 11 to like 13 range in the West. So, but I don't think we're gonna catch them.
Yeah, they waited way too long to. If they were gonna try to tank, they should have just sold all their assets while they could. Now everybody's looking around saying, "Wait, how are all these quote-unquote talented players so bad collectively?" And they probably really hurt those guys' trade value.
Well, I mean, if there was anyone on that team that I'd want, just for the Lakers standpoint, I'd want Ty Lawson. I don't think I doubt they'll trade him just because he's on a pretty team-friendly contract. If there's any way that the Lakers could swing a deal for him, it'd be huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey Denver, do you want you guys can have Jeremy Lin for Ty Lawson? What do you say?
I mean, that's a case where obviously that trade. I mean, unless the Nuggets front office are avid Lin fans, which I seriously doubt it. I mean, that Lawson's the type of player that I know a lot of people don't want to trade that late first rounder we have, but he's the type of guy I'd easily give it up for.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get any better player than you're going to find at that draft spot.
You got to at least consider it.
I would do that for sure.
Yeah, I would say that my one issue with Lawson is that if they do draft Lawson, it makes a bigger priority than to be able to draft a guy like Towns, who can protect the rim, because Lawson isn't very good on defense.
He's really small.
Right. Yeah, we were talking before the podcast. I'm 5'10"-ish, and we were looking eye to eye when I guarded him there in high school. That was not fun. So I guess we'll just really quickly look around the league. We have the Knicks just scored to pull within 10 points of the Celtics. The Sixers are up 15 on the Nuggets, so that's good news for us. The Heat are beating the Pistons. That doesn't really apply to us. And the last game of the night is Warriors-Kings. That doesn't apply to us at all. So just keep an eye on this Sixers team. By the way, I don't think the Sixers coach gets enough credit. And I say that without really knowing the guy's name, so I guess I'm kind of hypocritical here, but I think he's done a really good job, with what he's been given in a front office that is trying so hard to be bad. I was watching them play. I like that team a lot.
Well, I think of the teams that are ahead of us in the top 3, I think we have the best chance. Honest.
Yeah.
Which would have sounded crazy like 2.5, 3 months ago. I didn't think there was a shot.
Although I feel like if we get close enough, or if they win, like 2 or 3 games in a row, or 4 of their next 5, or something like, because their upcoming schedule is really easy. I feel like their GM would be like, all right, everyone's sitting. If you don't sit these games, we're just gonna trade you, or I mean, he'll tell Brett Brown, like, you win 2 more games and you're fired.
Oh, that's his name, Brett Brown. No, I would say he walks into the locker room and with a bat. I don't know. Did you guys ever watch that Major League movie? The old movie where the owner.
Yeah.
I could see them just replicating that scene. I think.
Yeah, like if you look at Philly's schedule, like out of the next like 11, 12 games, they actually have like 6 winnable games. So I think I honestly think we do end up catching Philly. So.
If you watch Philadelphia play, they take decent shots. Like they play like an entertaining style of basketball. They're terrible. It just kind of goes to show like what coaching can do, because like these players should not be competing with NBA teams on a night-to-night basis, and that's why their record's so bad. But it's just like a little bit of good shot selection, and they're competitive at least most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys know me. I have a love affair, man crush. What is it? Tuesday on KJ McDaniels. That's my guy. So any chance I get to watch him
Tuesday?
play. Yeah.
You are the old man here.
Yep, old man. But yeah, so I guess we'll wrap up here shortly. The big thing I wanted to go over really quick before we sign off here is just how vital it is to getting that 4th spot because of the percentage or the likeliness that we'd keep or the Lakers would keep their pick. So Ryan, why don't you go over those numbers, percentages?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people actually ask me this this week. The difference between 4 and 5 is a lot of people think, oh, it's not a big deal, or if you win a game, it's just one game. Well, if you drop from 4 to 5, if you're at 4, the percentage of keeping a top 5 pick would be like around 83%. If you drop to 5, it's 55%. So it's essentially like a 50-50 shot. And if you're in the top 4, you have a 38% chance of getting the top 3. If you're 5th, you have a 29% chance. And then if you go even higher, like somehow we catch Philly, as we were saying, if you're at 3rd, you have a 96% chance of keeping the pick and nearly a 50% chance of staying in the top 3. So 4th, I'd be fine with 4th. Moving back to 5th would be that only having a 50-50 shot of keeping the pick, to me, that's not good at all. And then honestly, if we move to 3rd, I'd obviously be ecstatic.
Yeah, I don't think any team's ever fallen out of the top 5 when they've had the 3rd worst record. Because I think you said something.
You'd have to have 3 teams below you all jump into the top 3 for that to happen.
Yeah.
It's like if that happens to you, if you have the 3rd worst record and that happens to you, your franchise is cursed.
Yeah, but on the flip side, if we have the 5th worst record, I don't know if there's ever been a time when the 5th worst record stayed in the top 5, because I feel like there's always a year where
usually always good.
It seems like there's always somebody.
Yeah, there's
usually
always
the Cavs.
Yeah, usually it's the Cavs.
And I just want to point out, like, I've had a lot of people tell me on Twitter, like, over the past few weeks, look at the Cavs last year. They won 30 games, and they got the number 1 pick. But, like, I mean, at the end of the day, we want to maximize our chance, to get the pick. And obviously, like, this whole thing is a probability distribution, right? And that was just an anomaly, right? So.
Well, someone. I'm not going to mention his name. Matt and I always have this conversation on Twitter. There's one guy, again, not going to mention his name. He says, like, oh, Lakers play hard. It's like karma is going to reward them with a top 3 pick. It's like, Matt, it's like the probability. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And they always cite like the Pelicans, like, the Pelicans played hard, so they got Anthony Davis.
They got rewarded.
The Cavs tried getting Luol Deng and competing somewhat, so they got rewarded with the number 1 pick. It's mathematical based. So
does Byron
give me the higher
follow
chance.
You guys on Twitter, and does Byron follow you guys on Twitter and get into arguments with you there, or what? Like who?
I swear.
I'm so glad he doesn't.
Couldn't you guys see? I mean, one, I don't think Byron would ever be on Twitter, but if he was hypothetically on Twitter, wouldn't he be the kind of coach who would create a fake account and go on there and talk about how great Byron is doing and that it's just all bad luck? They've had terrible injuries this season. I could totally see him do that. Either that or James Worthy would run the account for him. Why not?
Magic Johnson already runs that account.
Wait,
God.
has James Worthy ever said one bad thing about Byron Scott this year? I'd guess no, but you know.
Well, it's funny because last year, when every time we play poorly, these players they don't know how to play defense, or they're not taught the proper way of defense, or the schemes don't make any sense. And this year, it's right. At least last year, we started out 10-9, 9-8. We were actually a pretty respectable team. And
At one point, at least.
yeah, and then obviously because we had no talent, we started playing we were playing like garbage. But this year we started off terribly, and honestly, we had one stretch where I think we went like 5-4 or something like that, and yet Byron hasn't, from any of those like Time Warner cable guys, like he hasn't gotten any criticism. It's all about we just don't have the talent this year, and last year it should have been the same thing.
Yeah,
No, it's a little gross. They just blame the players after every single Byron doesn't even get a mention unless they win.
Yeah,
No,
and Magic last year, Magic Johnson, he basically celebrated when D'Antoni got fired.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
And then now when we started 0-5, he's like, "Oh, the Lakers are entertaining. Kobe's worth going to games for." It's just hypocritical.
And then he even advocated for losing.
Yeah, and then he switched like 15 games later.
Yeah,
And
I got kind of crushed. At one point, I compared the Lakers continuing to talk about the Showtime era to Republicans, wishing we could bring back Reaganomics, and people didn't like that comparison very much. I'm so ready. I see, that guy when you're in high school who just hangs around a little bit too much and always compares, the team you could be playing on could be going to state or, could be winning all kinds of leagues and stuff, and he's going to sit there and say, well, my year was way better. I just see that as the whole Showtime era of players. Let it go, guys. You guys haven't played in 40 years, 30 years. Just go away.
Well, I remember Magic Johnson last year. He's like, it was after D'Antoni got fired. He's like, I wouldn't mind if I never saw another three-point attempt by the Lakers. And it's that to me. In the modern NBA, you have to be able to. You can't be a bad three-point shooting team and win. Unless even Memphis has elite defense, elite post scorers, elite on-ball defenders, and they still can't win because oftentimes their shooting isn't good enough.
Right. No, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, it's pretty straightforward. If you make a three-pointer, you get another point. I don't know how anybody doesn't come to grips with that fact. Just it's math again. I mean, I guess math is hard for people. Hashtag math is.
It's all about karma. It's all about karma. Math doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's sitting here advocating that the Lakers take threes on every single shot. But it's I mean, it's worth an extra point. You should try and free those up. Even if you shoot a slightly
Phil brought up the four-pointer. Phil brought up a four-pointer, apparently, I saw on TV today.
Well, especially when our alternative, when we take so many long twos, it's like we don't shoot well on long twos anyway. It's like you might as well step back a few more feet, take a three, and then even if you shoot the same percentage, your offensive output's a lot better.
Yeah.
You guys might not be advocating for everybody to shoot all kinds of threes, but I may or may not have an article right now about Robert Sacre needs to develop a three-point shot.
Okay, I don't agree with that, but
I'll read it.
No, it's on the back burner right now. I have to just watch a couple more free throws to see if he has. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. I'm not.
I mean, honestly, if he could do that, right now, I was telling Harrison yesterday on Twitter, as a rotation big guy or a starter, he's not a good player, but as your third big or even fourth big. In an emergency situation, he's solid. And I mean, you said 3-pointers. I don't expect him to ever be a 3-point shooter, but if he ever did that, he'd actually have some sort of value as a floor spacer.
Right. Yeah, I just think that the biggest thing is with this team, and this is the one thing that I've agreed with Byron on this season, was that it seems like now he's just kind of playing guys in spurts, and this is how, we're going to learn what we have with these guys. Now, it's annoying that he's playing the guys he's playing now. I mean, I'd rather get a longer look at Tariq Black over Robert Sacre, but, it is what it is. All right, so last thing I guess we're going to do on here, before we sign off, we're going to preview tomorrow's big game. What are your thoughts on what needs to happen to keep the tank rolling? Go ahead and start, Harrison.
For tomorrow's game, I don't see a whole lot of scenarios where we win. I mean, Milwaukee's they're better coached. They have more talent. We're missing Jordan Hill, who's been for all of us wanting to trade him or whatever, he's been one of our more productive players. So I mean, especially if Black's moving into the starting lineup for him, so Kelly's going to stay at the 3, where Giannis can actually guard him, lengthwise. I really don't see. I don't see a whole lot of scenarios where we win that game, other than a crazy shooting night from Wayne Ellington or something like that. I don't think a whole lot has to be done. I think the work's been done.
Brandon Knight's questionable. He missed yesterday.
Oh.
He missed their game yesterday. So that, I mean, if he misses the game, maybe I could see us losing or winning. I mean, but the Bucks are a good defensive team. I don't think we're gonna be able to score that easily against them. And then our defense isn't good, so they'll be able to score against us. And it's on the road, so I'm not that worried. Friday's game, on the other hand, that's
a must lose.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to bring up. We had a lot of fun talking about Super Tank 2015 about that Knicks game, but that Orlando game looms just as large. Hopefully they fire Jock Vaughn by the time we sign off here. That way they have a new coach in place by the time Friday comes around. But yeah, Rahul, what would you say? Ryan, you can follow up after him. What would you say has to happen for Friday to go as we need it to go?
Honestly, there's not much that needs to happen in my opinion, especially if you're going to keep Kelly at the 3. I don't think we can guard Oladipo. I think he's going to go off against us. So I'm not that concerned. Again, it's on the road again, so I think we'll drop that game.
And Ryan, do you have anything to add there to that scouting report?
I mean, Orlando's a more talented team than us, that's for sure. I mean, Vucevic is good, Tobias Harris, Oladipo, but they're just they might be even worse coached than we are, that's really saying something. And we beat them earlier at Staples, and they just looked terrible. Their offense was just stagnant all game, and Vucevic, if Sacre is on him all game, there's no reason Vucevic shouldn't have a nice game. It's on the road. I don't think we'll win, but I mean, this team, you never know. I mean, we've beaten the Warriors and
the Hawks.
Yeah, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Rockets. You can't. I mean, Orlando's more talented, and I don't think we're gonna win. But there's certainly a chance, and it definitely wouldn't shock me if we did win. And we better not, though. Because if we win that game, we'd only be one win ahead of Orlando.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on paper, we should definitely lose to Orlando, but it's really weird. This is the most inconsistent team I've ever seen. Against the Bulls, who would have thought we would come out like that against Chicago, right? So.
Yeah, they're consistently frustrating. I would say they're
exactly
in that manner.
Do you know what should be the tiebreaker for the lottery is who lost more games when head to head? That should be the tiebreaker.
Then you would just see everyone. It's Nick Young out with illness.
Yeah, it'd make it so much more entertaining for these awful games.
Nick Young overdosed on swag.
Wait, your first NBA game. All right, guys. Well, that'll just about do it here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks everybody for joining. Keep those questions coming. Go ahead, Harrison. Your Twitter is @HMFagan, right?
Yes, HMFAIGEN.
All right, Matt, your Twitter is what?
At Matt Vazin, Vazin.
Okay, at Rahul, your Twitter is to be
Uh,
continued.
it's the
Changes every day.
RAHULSREAL.
Okay, all right, so that's since when?
I
2
don't
hours
know.
ago.
Maybe like a week. I have no clue. I don't know.
Did you set that during the show? Is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I did.
Changed
And
it three
then
times
Ryan,
during the show.
Ryan, your hashtag is still Ryan Kellepire, right?
Yeah,
And then mine is at Anthony Irwin NBA.
And then,
Also hit us at uh,
Team
Team
Tank
Tank
15.
15. Yep, Team Tank 15. Senile moment. And thank you guys again for all the support we've gotten so far. Keep the questions coming. Actually, I'd like to open it up. If you guys have any random questions, obviously keep it semi-clean. But yeah, just keep them coming. You'll get mentioned here on the show. We may or may not have a guest next week. Still working on
Sources say that
yeah. Working to confirm those sources. I have one source for sure. Just making, a good journalist gets two sources for every story. So, yeah. And then the next show I believe is on Thursday, right?
or
Are we doing?
Thursday
Are we
or
doing one
Friday.
after the game
I thought it
tomorrow?
was.
Well, what I plan on doing anyway is signing on here after every game. If you guys have questions after the game, you want to vent after the game, go ahead and shoot me a tweet. Either during or after. And then our rotating cast will be here after every game, and then Friday our next actual podcast will be airing. All right. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thanks.
Take it easy.
All right. Thanks.